We often imagine that changing our life is like climbing a mountain, some far-off effort that will require years of struggle and countless sacrifices. But the truth is gentler and also far more demanding. Change begins right here in this very breath. It is not something waiting at the horizon. It is not tomorrow's reward. It is now. The very way you choose to stand in this moment, to think in this instant, to breathe, to act, to respond. This is the birthplace of transformation. Change does not begin in the future, it begins in this very breath. We often fool ourselves into thinking that transformation is waiting somewhere ahead, like a destination at the end of a long road. We tell ourselves that tomorrow will be different, that next month we will begin, that one day circumstances will align, and then we will finally live as we imagine. But life does not unfold in the future, it unfolds now. The breath you are taking at this moment is the stage upon which change performs. To wait for the right time is to ignore the only time that truly exists, and the mind loves to postpone. It says, "I will start when I feel ready. I will change when things are easier. I will begin when I have more strength, more clarity, more certainty." But readiness is not something that arrives from the outside. Readiness is born in the very act of stepping into change, just as one cannot learn to swim by standing on the shore and waiting for confidence. You cannot wait your way into transformation. You must begin where you are, with the strength you have, with the courage that flickers in this breath. Every breath is renewal. Inhale and you receive life. Exhale and you release what no longer belongs to you. The body is already teaching you the secret of change. It is not some distant event. It is the rhythm of letting go and beginning again. If you pay attention, you will see that each breath is a small death and a small birth. The old moment falls away, the new moment arrives. This is the essence of transformation. Life does not ask you to leap into the future. It asks you to live this moment differently. To believe that change lies ahead is to create distance between yourself and possibility. That distance becomes an excuse, a comfortable delay. Yet in truth, nothing stands between you and change except your own hesitation. The moment you breathe with awareness, the moment you act with presence, you are already different. Even the smallest shift, choosing calm over reaction, gratitude over complaint, effort over idleness, is proof that change is immediate. It does not wait for some grand breakthrough. It begins with the simplest choice made in the living present. This breath is your opportunity to release the weight of yesterday. You are not bound by your past unless you choose to carry it forward. The past cannot cling to you without your consent, just as shadows vanish when you step into light. Every inhale offers you the chance to step free, every exhale the chance to let go. In this way, change is not a future achievement, but a continuous unfolding. The person you long to become is already forming in the choices you make now. To see change as distant is to miss its nearness. To live with the awareness that it begins in this very breath is to awaken to the truth. You are not waiting for transformation. You are breathing it into existence. The difficulty is that we cling to the familiar. Even if the familiar is painful, even if it no longer nourishes us, we hold on because it is known. To change your life means to release this grip. It means daring to open your hands and let the old self fall away. You are not merely adding layers upon layers, decorating your old patterns with fresh colors. True change is subtraction, peeling away what is false until only what is essential remains. To change your life, you must stop clinging to the old version of yourself. The greatest resistance to transformation often comes not from the world around you, but from the weight of who you believe you must continue to be. The familiar self, with its habits, fears, and patterns, clings to comfort even when that comfort is laced with dissatisfaction. You cannot step into a new life while holding tightly to the very identity that shaped the old one. Letting go is not abandonment but liberation, the courage to trust that you are not defined by the echoes of yesterday. We often carry the past like a shield, mistaking it for safety. The routines we repeat, the labels we accept, the stories we tell ourselves, all become walls that keep us from growth. This is who I am, we say, and with that statement we trap ourselves. But identity is not stone, it is water. It is meant to move, to flow, to reshape itself as experience deepens and awareness expands. If you hold on too tightly to the old form, the river of life cannot carry you forward. Change asks of you a kind of death, the death of old narratives, of outdated beliefs, of the false certainty that you must always remain who you once were. This can be frightening because the unknown stretches before you without a map. Yet the old version of yourself was also once unknown, and you grew into it through courage, mistakes, and learning. In the same way, you can grow into something new, but this requires the courage to release the grip on what feels familiar. Clinging to the old self is like trying to wear a garment that no longer fits. It may have suited you once, but now it restricts your movement, squeezes your spirit, and prevents you from stepping freely. To keep wearing it is not loyalty, it is stagnation. To set it aside is not betrayal, it is allowing yourself to grow. Life is a continuous becoming, and becoming means you cannot stay the same. Each moment offers you the chance to shed. You can shed an old habit that dulls your vitality. You can shed a belief that whispers limitations into your heart. You can shed a fear that once kept you safe but now holds you prisoner. These small acts of release accumulate into transformation. And as you loosen your hold on the old version of yourself, space opens for something new to emerge. You are not betraying who you were by letting go. You are honoring that version of yourself for carrying you this far. The old self served its purpose, but now it bows to the new. Change begins the moment you stop fighting to preserve an identity that no longer serves your growth. To change your life, you must release the comfort of yesterday and step into the courage of today. Only then does the door to a new life open. Notice how nature changes. The tree does not resist the passing of seasons. It does not demand that autumn never comes or that winter be postponed. It yields, and in that yielding there is beauty. To change your life is to live in that rhythm. To recognize that your growth will come through cycles of letting go, of surrender, of trusting that the spring will follow when you no longer cling to yesterday's leaves. Life changes not by force, but by alignment with what is real. The urge to control, to push, to bend existence into our will often creates more resistance than transformation. We imagine that change comes from sheer effort, from battling against ourselves or the world until something finally yields. But true change is not a conquest, it is a surrender to what is already true. When you align with reality instead of resisting it, transformation arises naturally, like a seed unfolding into a tree under the warmth of the sun. Force is rooted in fear. It is the belief that without constant pressure, nothing will move, nothing will grow. Yet life itself is not built on pressure but on harmony. Rivers carve valleys not through sudden violence, but through continuous flow. Trees rise toward the sky, not by force, but by aligning with the light. The body heals itself not because we command it, but because it follows its natural rhythm of restoration. In the same way, your life changes not when you endlessly struggle, but when you allow yourself to flow with the truth of your being. Alignment requires listening. It is an act of noticing the deeper rhythm that already guides your life. Often we impose ideas of who we think we should be, chasing ideals that do not belong to us, pushing ourselves into molds that distort our nature. This is why force exhausts us. It pulls us away from our essence. But when you listen closely, you hear a quieter voice, your own truth, the reality of what resonates with your heart. To align with that truth is to find a current that carries you without strain. This does not mean change is effortless, but it is natural. A bird must still beat its wings to fly, but it does not fight the wind it rides it. In the same way, when you act in harmony with what is real, effort transforms into ease. The discipline you need no longer feels like punishment. It becomes devotion. The work you do is not a burden, but an expression of who you are. Alignment turns struggle into movement, and movement into transformation. Forcing change often means trying to be someone you are not, while alignment means becoming more deeply who you already are. It is peeling away the false rather than adding endless layers. It is asking not, how can I control life, but how can I live in truth with life? This is why those who push endlessly often burn out, while those who align seem to grow with grace. Change flows naturally when it comes from the depth of what is real. When you align with reality, life shifts without resistance. The old falls away because it no longer fits. The new arises because it belongs. No struggle is needed, only awareness. Life changes not by force, but by remembering your place within its rhythm and stepping into harmony with the truth that has always been waiting within you. We spend so much time trying to become something stronger, richer, wiser, more important, forgetting that becoming never ends. We are like a traveler who is always on the road but never arrives. Real transformation does not mean adding another layer to yourself, but rather loosening the grip of all the identities you cling to. The person you believe yourself to be is not as solid as you think. Letting go of this constant struggle to defend your story is the beginning of freedom. Freedom begins when you realize that you are not the fixed story you keep telling yourself. For so long, you may have walked through life carrying an image, a narrative, a mask that says who you are and who you are not. This story is stitched together from memories, opinions, expectations, and the countless voices that once told you what you should be. You have rehearsed it so often that it feels like truth. Yet when you pause and look closely, you see it is not solid at all. It is only a collection of words and impressions floating in your mind, nothing more than a fragile construction that you mistake for reality. The great weight of this story is that it confines you. It convinces you that your life is already written, that your role has been assigned, and that you must repeat the same patterns because this is who you are. But if you look honestly, you will notice that the self you cling to is constantly changing. The person you were a year ago is gone. The person you were as a child is unrecognizable. Even the person you were this morning is not the same as who you are now. Life itself shows you that you are not fixed, yet the mind insists on holding you in a cage made of description. Freedom begins when you question this cage, when you stop identifying so completely with the voice that says, I am like this, I cannot do that, I am destined to remain this way. The moment you see that this voice is just a thought and not the essence of your being, a space opens. In that space, you realize you are far larger than the story you keep repeating. You are not the labels, not the roles, not the past, and not even the future you imagine. You are the living awareness in which all of these stories come and go. This recognition changes everything. Instead of being trapped in the character you have been playing, you begin to experience life with freshness. Old patterns lose their grip, not because you fight them, but because you no longer believe they define you. Fear loosens when you see it is not your fear, but just an experience passing through. Anger softens when you realize it is not who you are, but simply a wave of energy rising and falling. Joy, too, becomes lighter, no longer clung to as something to preserve, but appreciated as a gift of the present. To live in this way is to live with freedom, not the freedom of becoming someone better, but the freedom of not being chained to the illusion of a fixed self. You begin to flow with life instead of trying to force it. Each moment becomes an invitation to respond anew, not out of habit, but out of presence. When the story is no longer your prison, the possibilities of life unfold without boundary. And in that unfolding, you discover that freedom was never something to earn. It was always here, waiting for you to notice. The rhythm of your life is formed by the small choices you repeat every day, the way you wake up, the way you breathe, the way you greet the morning. These are not trivial things. They are the architecture of your existence. To change your life, do not wait for a grand event. Begin with the smallest gesture of awareness, for the seed of transformation is planted in the ordinary. The rhythm of life shifts when you shift your attention. What you look at becomes your reality. So much of what you call life is not the world itself, but the way you gaze upon it. Two people can stand in the same place at the same moment and yet inhabit completely different worlds. One may see only obstacles, difficulties, and reasons to complain, while the other notices opportunities, beauty, and quiet wonders hidden in the ordinary. Nothing outside them changed, yet their experience of life is worlds apart, simply because of the direction of their attention. Attention is not a small thing. It is the power that gives weight and meaning to existence. Wherever you place it, you breathe life into that corner of reality. When you dwell on pain, pain expands. When you focus on gratitude, gratitude deepens. Attention is the lens through which the whole universe is colored, and so the quality of your days is not determined solely by circumstances, but by the way you choose to see them. The rhythm of life is not fixed. It dances to the music of awareness. When your attention is scattered, pulled in 100 directions, life feels fragmented, hurried, and restless. The hours slip by without depth, leaving you with the sensation of constant movement, but little meaning. But when attention is gathered, when you are present with even the simplest act, the rhythm slows. The smallest gestures gain weight. A breath, a step, a glance at the sky. These moments reveal their richness when you truly attend to them. So often, people wait for life to change from the outside before allowing themselves to feel different on the inside. They believe joy will come when conditions finally align, but in truth, joy and clarity appear the moment attention shifts. What you nurture with awareness grows, and what you ignore fades into the background. This is why two lives, outwardly similar, can feel so different from within. One person sees endless reasons to be burdened, while another discovers endless reasons to be alive. The rhythm of your existence is, in many ways, a mirror of your inner gaze. If you continually focus on what is lacking, life takes on the rhythm of restlessness, always reaching and never arriving. But when attention turns toward what is here, life becomes abundant in its simplicity. Even difficulties transform when seen with openness. They become teachers instead of punishments, passages instead of prisons. To shift your attention is not to deny reality, but to participate in shaping it. What you look at with sincerity grows roots in your life. If you keep turning toward despair, despair becomes your home. If you turn toward wonder, wonder greets you at every corner. In this way, your attention is the sculptor of your reality. And when you recognize this, you begin to see that the power to change your rhythm was never far away. It was always in the direction of your gaze. And so the invitation is simple. Stop postponing life. Do not wait for tomorrow or for conditions to be perfect. Change is not in the future. It is here, right now, in how you see, in how you feel, in how you move with the unfolding of existence. Life does not ask you to become someone else. It asks you to awaken to the truth that you are already part of its vast, unrepeatable dance. Change is not in the future. It is always here, in the immediacy of now. The mind loves to postpone, to dream of tomorrow as the place where transformation will finally happen. It whispers that one day, when the right circumstances arrive, when you have gathered enough strength, when you have learned enough lessons, then you will begin. Yet that tomorrow never truly comes, for the future is only an idea, a shadow cast by the present moment. What is real is only now, and it is here that change breathes. Most people imagine change as something dramatic, a grand event waiting to unfold at some distant point in time. But life does not operate in such leaps. It moves in moments, in choices, in the smallest shifts of awareness. The act of seeing clearly right now, of stepping into presence without resistance, is the beginning of transformation. Waiting for the future is only another way of avoiding the living truth of the present. Look closely and you will notice that every change you have ever experienced has taken place in the immediacy of a single moment. The decision to act, the recognition of a truth, the letting go of something old, all of it unfolded in the now. Even when you planned for the future, the act of choosing, of shifting direction, happened here. The future is only a mental horizon, but the power of change has always been immediate. The illusion of postponement is comforting because it spares us from the discomfort of confronting this instant. We tell ourselves that we will begin tomorrow, that growth will happen later, that freedom is waiting somewhere else, but this is only a way of clinging to what is familiar. True change requires presence, and presence can only exist here. The doorway is always open, but stepping through it demands that you stop escaping into the dream of another time. The immediacy of now holds everything you seek. It is in this breath, this heartbeat, this awareness that you have the power to release what no longer serves and to embrace what life offers. If you awaken to this moment, you realize you are not bound by the past or chained to a projected future. You are alive in the only place where anything ever happens, this unfolding instant. To see this is liberating. You no longer need to wait for the perfect condition because the condition is always now. You no longer need to believe that life will begin later because life has already begun. The simplicity of this realization dissolves the weight of hesitation. Change is not a distant mountain to climb. It is a step you take with your very next breath, a turning of the gaze toward what is true. And when you allow this, you see that every moment holds the seed of transformation, quietly waiting for you to recognize it.